Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're all well and having a great day so far. If you're new here, hi, I'm Emma and I make bookish content. I love to read romantasy, romance and dark romance, but I do sometimes dabble into other genres as well. Today's video is my August reading wrap up, and August was a fantastic reading month for me. I'm going to be chatting with you about the 27 books that I read and I enjoyed every second of it. All of them were physical books apart from one, which was Kindle Unlimited. So I've made some fantastic progress with my physical TBR this month and I'm thrilled about that. Go grab yourself a drink, get comfy and let's talk about some books then. I read the first 3 books in Elsie Silver's Rose Hill series, so that's Wild Love, Wild Eyes and Wild Side. Wild Love was actually on my August TBR and I really enjoyed it. It was a very easy read for me, so I decided to continue on with the series. And it's perfect timing because book 4, Wildcard, comes out this month and I've already pre-ordered that one. This series is small town romance set in Rose Hill, Canada, and Rose Hill is part of the same universe as Chestnut Springs and her Gold Rush Ranch series. Both of those I've read earlier this year and really enjoyed them, and we do see the odd familiar face crop up in this series as well. But this series, all of them do have the single dad trope, but under very, very different circumstances, and it's also spicy. Wild Love I gave 3.5 stars, and this is Ford and Rose's story. So Ford is a billionaire, he made his money in tech and he's setting up a record company in Rose Hill. We have met him previously in the Chestnut Springs series, he's Willa's older brother. Rosie is born and raised in Rose Hill, but after years of living in the city, she decides to move home when things don't work out with her job. Ford is her brother's best friend. They've known each other since they were kids, and she does end up taking a job working for Ford in his record company. So we do have that boss-employee dynamic as well. As I said, Wild Love is single dad trope, but not in the conventional sense, so this did add another layer to the story as well. I really enjoyed this book, I flew through it, and if you enjoy small town romances, I would definitely recommend. Wild Eyes I gave 4 stars, and this is Weston and Skylar's story. Weston is Rose's brother, so another Rose Hill native. He's a single dad and also a horse trainer. Skylar is a famous country singer, but she's had some bad press recently. So she's come to Rose Hill to work with Ford. She wants to step out of the limelight, get some peace while she works on some of her new songs. While she's in town, she ends up staying in Weston's bunkhouse, so there is a forced proximity element there. But I loved Weston. I love the relationship that Weston has with his kids. I love his kids' relationship with Skylar and how that develops. I just really enjoyed this book. Lastly, we have Wild Side, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's Reese and Tabitha's story. I did feel like this one is very different from any of the other books I've read by Elsie Silver, and I really enjoyed it for that reason. It was quite refreshing to have something a bit different. We have met both of these characters briefly earlier in the series. We don't know much about them, but we are aware that there's some animosity between the two of them. When Tabitha's sister passes away, her sister named Reese as her son's guardian. So we're obviously talking about Tabitha's nephew here, and she contests this. Rose Hill is in Canada and Reese is actually an American citizen. He lives and works in Florida. And although these two don't agree on much, they do agree that keeping things as normal as possible for Tabitha's nephew is what's best for him in the long run. So the two of them decide to get married to get round this immigration issue, and obviously to sell this marriage they have to live together as a married couple. So it's marriage of convenience, it's forced proximity, and it's also hidden identity as well. I really, really enjoyed this book. Sticking with the cowboy romances, I also read Taming the Heart by Elliot Rose, and I gave this book 3 stars. This is book 3 in the Crimson Ridge series, and Sage is hired by ex-bull rider Beau to be the interior designer for his ranch. It's small town, cowboy romance, it's age gap, it's boss ex-employee, and one other thing, Beau is also a married man. Elliot Rose's books usually contain a forbidden romance element which is a bit taboo, but don't worry, it's never usually as bad as it initially sounds, so don't let that put you off, and her books are very spicy. This was not my favourite book of the series, if I'm being honest. I much prefer book 1, Chasing the Wild, and there was also a novella which was really good called Bouquets and Buckles, but I am excited for book 4 that's just come out, and I think it arrived this week. It's called Saving the Rain, and that's going to be the first romance in this series, so I'm very much looking forward to reading that. I also read the Part of Your World series by Abby Jimenez. This one is another one that was on my August TBR, and I enjoyed it so much I just wanted to continue with the rest of the series. The first book, Part of Your World, I rated 4 stars, and our main character, Alexis, is an ER doctor. She comes from a legacy of world-renowned surgeons, so there's a lot of pressure on her from her family in the main to continue that legacy, excel professionally, and also marry the right kind of person that's going to fit into their world. Her partner of 7 years cheats on her, and she's not as devastated as everybody thinks that she's going to be. In fact, I think she's quite relieved that she can end the relationship because he's not this perfect man that everybody around her thinks he is. She's actually travelling back from a funeral when her car breaks down in a small town, and she meets this guy called Daniel, a super hot carpenter who's 10 years younger than her. They have fantastic chemistry and they end up having a night of amazing sex together, and she really enjoys his company. But Daniel is from a completely different world. He's not from the same wealthy background that she's from, and Alexis worries that these two worlds can't coexist together, but she doesn't want to give Daniel up either. I really enjoyed this book. It was a great read from start to finish. Next up we have Truly Yours, and I rated this one 4.5 stars. The main female character in this book is Brianna. She's also an ER doctor and is Alexis's best friend. She's having a really crappy time at the moment. So her husband had cheated on her, and that led to her marriage ending and her divorce is just being finalised. But her brother is also very ill. He's in hospital and desperately needs a new kidney. On top of all of this, there's a new doctor at the hospital, and he's a potential rival for a promotion that she really wants. So yeah, she's got a lot going on, and she's under quite a lot of stress. That new doctor is Jacob, and he's not exactly having an easy time of it himself. He's got shit of his own going on. He suffers with social anxiety, so starting a new job, working at a new hospital, being around new people is not something that is easy for him. And his first interaction with Brianna doesn't go very well at all. He makes quite a bad first impression. So he decides to write her a handwritten letter to apologise. They continue to exchange letters, the banter between them is fantastic, and they do become friends. Brianna actually agrees to fake date Jacob to help him out because, as I said, he's got his own stuff going on, so she wants to help him out with that basically. And I just really enjoyed this book, loved it from start to finish. I've not read too many books by this author before, but what I am starting to notice is that Abby Jimenez has this amazing ability to talk about really serious, emotional topics 1 minute, and then in the next minute she's laugh out loud funny. My husband was actually in the room when I was listening to my audiobook of this, and even he was like sniggering at some of the banter between the characters, and I do think that's a gift that Abby definitely has. So another great example of this is Just for the Summer, and I gave this one 5 stars. So Justin thinks that he has some sort of dating curse. Every woman that he dates, as soon as their relationship ends, she then goes on to find her soulmate. And I guess it's becoming like a bit of a recurring theme for him. So he posts about this on Reddit, and the post actually gains a lot of traction. It goes viral. and Emma reaches out to him, having read this post, and explains that she has exactly the same issue. The two of them interact online and they basically come up with this plan to date each other so they can break up, their curses will cancel out, and then both of them can go on to find their soulmate. Emma's actually a travelling nurse, so at the moment she's working quite far away, but on her next posting she takes a job at a hospital in Justin's hometown, so they're able to meet each other in person. I absolutely adored the banter. I love how they interact with each other, but as with all Abby Jimenez's books, it's not straightforward. Both Justin and Emma have quite complicated home situations, both for different reasons, but it does add complexity when it comes to them having a relationship. Absolutely adored this book. It was laugh out loud funny at points, and yeah, I would highly recommend this one. Then we have It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan, and I rated this one 3.5 stars. It's the first book that I've ever read by this author, and I would describe it as a very light-hearted romance read. In her teens, Jane was in a very successful sitcom, but she was always the butt of the joke. Since that show finished, she has tried very, very hard to distance herself from that in order to be taken seriously. Now she's a Hollywood studio exec and she's looking to get her first big project greenlit by her boss, but it starts to not go well, so out of sheer desperation she tells this big fat lie. She actually tells him that she can get this famous pop star to write a song and perform this song for this movie. She does know this pop star, but it was 20 years ago. They were basically kids when they met and they don't have any relationship or contact with each other. So she has to go on this sort of road trip to find this guy and try to convince him to write this song, essentially lean into the lie so she can save face and save her movie. She turns to Dan for help, a cinematographer who she really dislikes, but the pop star's playing in his hometown, so she goes home with him to basically try and get a minute of this guy's time and get the deal done so she can save face. But obviously it's a romance book, so we can probably see out of the two who she's more likely to have romantic feelings for. But it was a fun read. It'd be one of these books, I think, that if you want something light-hearted to read by the pool, this one is a great one to pick up. Next I have When in Rome by Sarah Adams, and this one I rated 4 stars. So our main character, Amelia Rose, she is a famous singer, but she is absolutely burnt out. Inspired by one of her favourite movies, she gets in a car and drives to Rome, Kentucky because she's trying to get away from everything basically. Her car breaks down in Noah's driveway and she ends up staying in his guest room until it's fixed. He is born and raised in this small town. He owns the local pie shop. He's single, but he's very anti-relationship. I ended up enjoying this book a lot more than I thought I would. It's small town, closed door romance, and I really enjoyed how Amelia and Noah's relationship developed. And because I enjoyed When in Rome so much, I did pick up the second book in the series, Practice Makes Perfect. I rated this one 3.5 stars. This is Annie and Will's story. Annie is Noah's younger sister and she is very much the baby of the family. They are overly protective towards her. They very much want to wrap her up in cotton wool, and she sort of fell into this sort of super sweet cutesy role, but it's not who she really is or who she really wants to be either. Will is Amelia's bodyguard and he's getting a lot of attention in his own right. Obviously when he's been protecting Amelia and he's being snapped by the paparazzi, they've noticed that she's got this super hot bodyguard, so he's ended up on, good looking bodyguard lists in magazines and he's getting a lot of female attention because of that, but he only does casual hookups, he doesn't do relationships. Will is actually really good for Annie because he challenges her to do what she wants. He encourages her to step out of her comfort zone, try new things, and really sort of grow as a person. But Annie and Will spending time together doesn't go down very well in the local town. Everybody's in each other's business. They think that she's far too good for him. They think that he's a player, that he's going to hurt her. I think they even have a petition for their relationship to end at one point. So yeah, that sort of adds, I guess, another small town trope. You've got interfering townspeople in the mix. But another story that I really enjoyed. It was a very easy read, and again, closed door romance. I also finished the Twisted series by Anna Huang, and I really enjoyed these. These were rereads for me, but I enjoyed them just as much the second time round. First we have Twisted Games. This was a 4-star read for me, and it's my very favourite of the whole series. I absolutely loved this book. Bridget is a princess of a European country, and Reese is her bodyguard and ex-special forces. It's forbidden romance, it's spicy, it's touch her and die vibes, but the storyline is great as well. It's not just spice without any substance. It's a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. And if you do want to dip your toe into the dark romance genre, the Twisted series is on the milder side, so I would say that is a great series to start with. Next up we have Twisted Hate, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is Josh and Jules's book. Both of these characters we've met in the previous books. Josh is Ava's older brother and Jules is Ava's best friend. This is enemies to lovers, and Josh dislikes Jules because he sees her as reckless, somebody that is going to get his younger sister into trouble and generally be a bad influence for her. And when their friendship, when Jules' friendship with Ava was sort of starting out, Jules overhears him saying these things to Ava, and she obviously feels judged by Josh, and that's the reason that she doesn't like him either. So over the last couple of books, this dislike has sort of grown, and they're constantly sniping at each other, you know, to the point really that they have to be told to behave by everybody else in the group because it's impacting the group's dynamic. This is my least favourite book of the series, and although I enjoyed getting to know Jules more as a character and learning a lot more about her backstory, towards the end of the book there's a particular scene between Jules and Josh, and the way that he treats her in that moment, it just made me instantly dislike him, and I just can't get past it. So for that reason, you know, I can't get on board with him as a character, and that's all that I'm going to say about it because I don't want to give away any spoilers. But for me, the way that he treated her, I don't think there was any coming back from. Then we have Twisted Lies. This was a 4-star read for me. It's Stella and Christian's story, and it was very close to the top spot with Twisted Games. I very much enjoyed this book. Christian Harper is a tech genius, a billionaire, and he's head of Harper Securities. He's the perfect morally grey character. If you want touch her and die vibes, somebody that has got a very questionable moral compass, you definitely need to give this one a read. Stella is an influencer. She wants to grow her social media following, and she's advised to get herself a boyfriend in order to get more engagement from her followers. Christian is just looking for somebody to attend networking events with him, go to dinners and parties for work. So they decide to fake date because it's mutually beneficial for both of them. This public relationship sparks a threat from Stella's past to resurface. So Stella is then in danger and she turns for Christian to help. Obviously he's best placed to do that because he's head of his own security company. So yeah, I don't want to give too much away about this book because it is such a good read, and I won't want to spoil it for any of you. Absolutely loved it. Next up I have Kiss the Villain by Rena Kent, and I rated this one 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it, and I had forgotten I listened to this on Audible, so I don't have a physical copy. It's Professor ex-student, it's an dark romance, and it's super spicy. As I said, I enjoyed this book, but what did confuse me about it is this is supposed to be book one of a brand new series by Rena Kent, and to me it read very much like book 7 of the Legacy of God series. I wouldn't actually recommend reading this one until you've read the Legacy of God series. The reason it confused me is because it is set in the same location with the same characters, and also the same timeline of events. In Legacy of God, there is a sort of overlap of where you experience the same event but from different characters' perspectives in each of the books. And the format of this book was exactly the same. So as I said, I enjoyed the book, but I do very much feel like this should have been book 7 in the Legacy of God series. Seven Summers by Paige Toon. This was another 4-star read for me, and I very much enjoyed this book. Finn and Liv meet when they're working together in a Cornish bar. So after they get together, the night ends in tragedy, and that forms like an unbreakable bond between the two of them. Finn doesn't live in Cornwall anymore though, he actually lives in LA, so he does have to return home, but they make sort of like an agreement between the two of them that they're not going to wait for each other, but if both of them happen to be single, when he visits next year and he returns each summer, if they're still single, they'll spend that summer together. But what it does is they're not actually able to move on from each other, and it creates this really horrible sort of heartbreaking situation where they really love each other, they spend each summer together, but obviously that comes to an end when he returns home to the US. So this is, picking at an open wound really, and it's been going on for years and years and years. So after this situation has been going on for 6 years, it's sort of present day in the book. So this summer, Liv meets a new guy called Tom, and she really, really likes Tom. They've got a lot in common, and she's finally seeing herself possibly having a relationship with somebody where it doesn't end at the end of the summer. Finn comes back as he always does each summer, and poor Liv has a very, very difficult choice to make. So it's a bit of a love triangle. There are some quite difficult topics in this book, so maybe check trigger warnings before reading it. There is definitely exposure to somebody that is dealing with grief. But this, it was a great read. I thought that the writing was fantastic. Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. This book I very much enjoyed, and I gave it 3 stars. I'm so glad that I finally picked it up to read, because it's been sitting on my bookshelf for the longest time, probably at least five years or so. This book is set in the UK, and it tells the story of 12 women whose lives are intertwined. So it covers women from multiple generations, all different ages, and each woman explains their sort of life story, their experiences with racism, sexism. In some cases, these female characters are lesbian, so they explain sort of how their sexuality was received in society and how they were treated. So this was very much an interesting read for me, because the lives of these women were very different to mine, so it's interesting to read perspectives on life experience that I personally haven't been exposed to. Because there were so many characters, as I said, there's 12 women in total, I did find it a bit difficult from time to time to keep up with each character, remember how they know each other or how they're related to each other, but I think that's just because there were so many characters in the mix. So on occasion I did find that a little bit tricky, but I did very much enjoy this book. I also read The Coven and The Curse by Harper L. Woods, and I did get these nice editions with the sprayed edges. I rated both of these 3.5 stars, and I will talk about them together because if I talk about the sequel on its own, it will contain spoilers for the first book, which I obviously don't want to do. So yeah, I'll talk about both of them at the same time. Hollow's Grove is a secret and prestigious university for witches, and they attend there to learn how to use and wield their magic. Our main character Willow has never been a student up until now, and what the sort of teachers and the coven that preside over the school don't realise is that she's actually been raised to be a weapon against them. Willow must find the bones of her ancestor in order to reclaim the magic that is rightfully hers. The headmaster, Alaric Grayson Thorne, he's not a witch, he is another type of supernatural creature, a little bit like a vampire, but I can't remember what it was called. He is very much a morally grey character. He's very dangerous, manipulative, and despite the fact that they have a mutual dislike for each other, Willow understands that she might need him in order to be able to find the power that she's looking for. As I said, I did enjoy it. It's not my favourite fantasy novel that I've ever read, but you know, it was still an enjoyable read, and I will be picking up book 3 in the series, which I think is out sometime later this year. Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, and this is a YA fantasy romance, and it's actually a duology, so again I won't talk about the second book specifically because it will give away some spoilers. So there's a war going on between two gods, and Iris's brother has gone to fight on the front line, but she's not heard from him in months. Our main character, Iris, is a writer, and she's got herself a job at a prestigious newspaper, but she's having to compete with her office rival, Rowan, for a job. Between her brother going missing and her mother's alcoholism, Iris is not in a good place at all. She's barely holding it together. So as an outlet, she starts to write letters to her brother on her typewriter, and she puts them in her wardrobe. As I said, it's just allowing her to vent, I suppose. She doesn't expect these letters to be answered until one day they are. Her letters have made their way to Roman, so her office rival, by some sort of magical link. Roman does realise who Iris is based on the content of the letters, but when he replies to her, he does so anonymously. And over time, the two of them do form a connection from writing to each other. I loved Divine Rivals. It was very different from anything that I've ever read before. I was hooked in and invested from the get-go. So I rated this one 4.5 stars. I was, however, a bit disappointed with the second book, Ruthless Vows. I only rated this one 3 stars. I just expected, I guess, a little bit more. It didn't quite sort of meet that expectation that the first book set, unfortunately. But I think both of them are still worth a read. And I think there is a new book coming out this month that is maybe a prequel to this story, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't decided whether I'm going to pick that one up yet or not. I may do. The Baby Dragon Cafe by A.T. Qureshi. This is a cosy fantasy read. Saphira owns a local cafe where baby dragons are welcome, but she's actually struggling financially with her business because the baby dragons, they do cause a bit of damage. You know, when they breathe a bit of fire, you know, sometimes it damages things in the shop, and unfortunately she's not making much, if any, money. There's a social hierarchy in this world where families that have dragons are top of the pecking order, and Aidan is from one of these prestigious families, but he's having a lot of trouble with his baby dragon, and that dragon is misbehaving a lot. So he strikes a deal with Saphira that Saphira will help him train his dragon. He will pay her for her time and effort, and that in turn will help her out with her financial situation with the cafe. It's grumpy sunshine, it's low spice, and they do have to pretend to be married. Unfortunately, this book wasn't for me. I don't think there was enough substance to the story to keep me hooked and sort of interested in what was going on. It was cute, but as I say, not enough in there to keep me interested. So I don't think that I'll be picking up the second book in this series, and for that reason I did rate it 2.5 stars. I also read The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, and I absolutely adore this edition. It's got beautiful sprayed edges. I did really enjoy this book. So the Emperor of Oran, his reign is about to come to an end, and there are 7 contestants that are going to compete in a contest to win the throne. Each contender has been trained at rival monasteries, so they're the best of the best until one of them is murdered. It falls to Nima to investigate. She enters the contest as the replacement, and while she does this, she's hunting for the killer. It's very high stakes. If she's successful, she could win the throne, whether she wants it or not. But if she fails, she could actually die. This is the first book in a new fantasy series, so I know that there's going to be other books following this. As with a lot of first books, there's a lot of world building, understanding relationships, understanding the politics in the world as well. I will say that about halfway through it did sort of start to pick up pace, and certainly like the last sort of quarter of the book was very, very fast paced and exciting, so it's definitely setting up for that second book to come into play, and I'll absolutely be picking that one up. Silver Elite by Danny Francis. I rated this one 4 stars. So when this was released a couple of months ago, it received a lot of hype, and I think because of that it's had sort of mixed reviews since then. Some people obviously felt that it was worth the hype, and others didn't, but I find that sometimes when something's been hyped up, you go in with very high expectations off the bat and it doesn't always meet them. But if if that hype didn't exist and you were to just read that book expecting nothing, you probably would enjoy it. But I did actually really enjoy this book. I loved the writing style. I was engaged very early on in the book. It had a good pace and kept me interested. One thing I will say, there was quite a big plot twist that I guessed very early on in the book, so in that sense it was a bit anticlimactic for me, but maybe that's because I do read a lot of fantasies, and a lot of fantasy novels share tropes, so maybe I'll just look out for this now. But there was a different plot twist that I did not see coming, so that was a bit of a jaw-dropping moment towards the end. Very much enjoyed it. Will absolutely be picking up the second book in the series. My Kindle Unlimited read this month was Morning Glory Milking Farm by C.M. Nacosta, and I did rate this 2.5 stars. This was the first time that I've dabbled into monster romance. I've heard a lot of people talking about this genre over the last couple of months, and actually some of the romance reads that I've read recently, the characters in those books are reading monster romances as well. So I wanted to sort of pick something up, try something new, just to see whether it was for me or not. Our main character Violet is a human, and in this world there is a lot of species of different magical creatures all living amongst each other in society. Violet's broke, she's crippled with debt, and she's about one step away from needing to move back in with her parents because her finances are so bad. So she's got no choice basically but to get a better paid job. And she takes a job at Morning Glory Milking Farm. In this world, minotaurs sell their semen to essentially be put into Viagra pills, which are then sold on to humans. So there's a market for their semen. And as the name of the company suggests, that is what happens, and Violet's job is basically to facilitate that. other than the shock factor of the milking farm, I don't feel like this book had enough substance and wider storyline to keep me interested. Reading spice on its own is not enough for me. I do like to have a good, strong storyline as well. I would like to try reading another couple of books from the monster romance genre before I decide whether this genre is for me or not. So if you do have any book recommendations, you know, for monster romance books, please let me know in the comments, because obviously one book is not going to be reflective of a genre as a whole. So I'm not going to write it off just yet. I am going to try a couple of others first. But this one for me, you know, I didn't hate it, but I just didn't think this book was very memorable. I would have liked to have had a bit more substance to it. Then we have Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry, and this was another 4-star read for me. I very, very much enjoyed it. It's a brand new fantasy romance series. There's going to be more books coming out, and I don't want to tell you too much about it because I guess one of the main plot twists very early on. I don't know whether that's because I tend to read a lot of romantasy books, and there's often quite common tropes from series to series, but I still, as I said, very much enjoyed the book. I've got a really beautiful copy. Mine is a Waterstones exclusive edition, and it's got these gorgeous sprayed edges, but I will give you a bit of an overview of the plot. So there's rival kingdoms, there's an arranged marriage, forced proximity, enemies to lovers, there's hidden identity, all of that good stuff. And if you have watched my channel before, you know that this is right up my alley. I absolutely love those tropes in a fantasy romance series. I'm very much excited to pick up the next book, and for sure, as soon as that comes out, it will be straight in my basket. Another brand new fantasy romance, and this is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. 4 stars from me, absolutely loved it. Mine is a Waterstones exclusive edition. It's got these beautiful, beautiful sprayed edges. So gorgeous edition, but more importantly, fantastic story. So the war is over, the hero is dead, and Princess Bryony Rosewood has been captured by the enemy, and she's about to be sold off to the highest bidder. The highest bidder being Tovin Hurst. Tovin is somebody that Bryony went to school with. She's had an infatuation with him for the longest time, but they're not friends by any means. Obviously with their families, they're sort of on opposite sides of the war. She hasn't got anybody around her now that can help her. Everybody that would have been loyal to her family have either been killed or in hiding, and she is very much needing to navigate her new reality. She's a captive, she doesn't have any control, and she's trying to suss out how this new world is going to work for her. Not all hope is lost though, and it does seem that there might be help in the most unlikely of places. So yeah, there's a glimmer of hope, which is very much something that she's holding on to, but she's now under the control of Tovin. He essentially owns her, you know, he's purchased her in an auction. I would say there are darker themes in this book from other fantasy romances, so you know, research the trigger warnings as you would do with any sort of darker romance read. But yeah, very, very much enjoyed this one. It was quite different to what I've read before, and I will absolutely be picking up the second book once it's available. And last but not least, we have Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. 4 stars for me. Absolutely loved this book. It's the second book that I've now read by her. I read The 7 Year Slip earlier this year and loved that book too. So yeah, I'm probably now enjoying this magical realism genre, and maybe I'll look to read some more books with magical realism in. But yeah, this was great, and it was a fantastic palette cleanser as well, because as you can see, I've read quite a lot of fantasy, quite a lot of normal, like conventional romance reads during the month as well. Our main character, Joni, she's a songwriter. She's living out in LA. She's very successful at songwriting, and she's written some songs for you know, very famous artists. They've done really well in the charts. But she returns home. It's a place for her where she has always found inspiration for writing new music. And while she's there, she starts to hear like a sort of part finished melody in her mind. And then she also starts to hear a man's voice. And as the book goes on, it becomes obvious that the man is a real man. It's not just some sort of random voice that she's hearing. She's telepathically connected to another person, and they can have conversations without sort of using the phone. They just sort of acknowledge each other in their minds. They do end up meeting in real life, and they decide to finish the song together. So yes, a really nice story, very different to what I've read before, and yeah, enjoyed it a lot. Those were the 27 books that I read in August. Please let me know what you were reading in August as well. I love to hear from you guys, and I absolutely love to get book recommendations. I've said before, I could talk about books all day. That is why I started my channel in the first place. But I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please let me know by giving the video a like. And if you want to see more videos from me, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads, and I'd love to have you back. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you on my next one. Enjoy the rest of your day.